Judith, an old lady, is teaching young kids how to dance on her lawn. She looks younger than her actual age. There are a lot of people, including her family and her friends, with their families gathered to celebrate her 70th birthday. She blows out candles and they all eat cake. Judith picks a little girl up and revolves. Suddenly, she feels a little dizzy and falls while trying to hold the table cover. They all rush towards her. 3 months later, they come to the Golden Sun Manor nursing home. Judith comes with her daughter, Barbara, and grandson, Josh. He does not want her to live there, but she insists she should be there for her health. They are guided to a room where Liesl welcomes her warmly. She tells her not to unpack for her, as she can do it herself. Ms. Benson, the director of the nursing home, comes with them to show her her room. Ms. Benson tells Liesl about her medications for Parkinson's and strokes so that the nurse will take care of her medications. Judith assures her that she can manage all by herself. Ms. Benson leaves, telling her to call whenever she needs. Barbara follows her, telling her that she wants to speak with her. Josh once again asks her if the place does not suit her, but she insists on living there. Josh goes out, hugging her. She opens up her phone and receives a text from Josh. She smiles, thinking of her grandson. Judith turns to the other old lady, who is sitting in a wheelchair and mumbling. She introduces herself to her, but gets no response. The lady repeats only one phrase, "I am watching." As Judith turns back to see her phone, Elizabeth, a black nurse, is holding it. She tells her that there are no cell phones allowed in the building, and takes her phone with her. At the dinner table, Josh is waiting for his grandma's return text. He tells his mother that they made a mistake to let her go when she needs them the most. Then he gets up in anger to watch a movie. At night, when Judith turns the TV off to get to sleep, she hears a scream. She rushes out and finds a male nurse, Gary, who is trying to take an old lady named Imogen to her bed. She continues screaming, asking him to go away. The next morning, Judith goes to the dining room holding her tray. Liesl asks her to go out for a walk. She tells Liesl, while walking in the woods, that she does not want her family to see her diminishing gradually. She notices a broken fence and the body of a crow there. Liesl takes her to show her an oak tree. The sunshine comes down, making its way through its branches. She finds traces of something burnt there and asks about that. Liesl tells her that it must be done by the kids. Judith tells her that she met her husband George in the woods. They go back to talking. She takes her to the garden where she meets Ruth and Trish. They welcome her warmly and they discuss gardening. As she moves a little backward, Mr. Rowland holds her from behind to prevent her from falling. After initial greetings, he invites her to play cards. She leaves, smiling. They say goodbye to one another pleasantly. Judith joins the party where Rowland, Ruth, and Trish welcome her. They ask her about her family. She tells them that she has a daughter and a grandson, Josh. She further tells them that Josh's father died when he was young, and that they grew up together to get past the trauma. Trish tells them that her family has been gone for a long time. On Rowland's inquiry, she tells him that she is widowed and misses her husband. Rowland also tells her that he misses his wife. Suddenly, Ruth breaks in and asks them to stop the depressing talk. Then they talk about random things pleasantly. At night, as she turns the TV off, she sees her roommate screaming. Gary and Liesl bring her in, holding her tightly. They put her in bed forcefully. She goes to them, asking them if they need any help, but they refuse. Annette, her roommate, asks her if she sees him coming, giving her the medicine. Liesl turns towards Judith and tells her that she became a nurse as she saw her grandparents wasting away from Alzheimer's. She gives her a tablet too, but she refuses to take it and goes to sleep. While sleeping, she dreams about herself, that she goes to the oak tree. As she touches the tree, her hand also becomes a part of it. She wakes up and the next day, Josh comes to meet her, and they play a board game talking about random things. At night, Judith is trying to sleep to the sound of a thunderstorm outside. The room is all dark, and there is an occasional light due to the lightning outside. Suddenly, she notices a shadow in front of her in a flash of lightning. She screams, and the next moment, she finds it on her bed. Elizabeth comes in and threatens that she will call Gary if she does not behave. She goes out, turning the lights off and closing the door. Judith turns the lamp on and goes to Annette's bed, who is sobbing. She asks her about the mysterious being, but she does not respond. The next morning, she tells Rowland, Ruth, and Trish, who have become her good friends, about last night. She goes to Gary and asks him if he was there in her room the previous night. He denies everything. Rowland goes to her and takes her back. They tell her that it would be useless to complain, as they would prove her a patient and no one would believe her. They are stuck there forever. She goes to the main door and tries to open it. Ms. Benson comes over and asks her if she needs anything. She tells her that she wants to have some fresh air. Ms. Benson tells her that they do not let any of their residents go out without company. In the evening, as she plays cards with her friends, she sees a man playing piano. Suddenly, the man turns out to be her husband George. She goes to him and they dance. Her vision breaks when she gets called by her friends. She finds herself standing and tells her friends that she must be dreaming for a minute. Trish tells her that if she needs, she can come to their room, as they live in the room next to hers. At night, when she goes to bed, she is relaxing her nerves when someone touches her face from behind. She gets scared and finds Rowland there. He tells her that he has come there just to have some connection, but she refuses him. He goes away, asking her not to mention it the next morning. She wakes up from a deep sleep suddenly. She rushes to the other portion of the room, but does not find anything. As she turns back, she finds a mysterious creature on the wall. She tries to get out of the room, but the door does not open. She rushes to press the alarm, but finds the creature clenching her arm. The next morning, she goes through various physical and mental tests. Then she goes through an MRI. The doctor tells her daughter that she is considering her delusions a reality, and that they need to break her delusions. When she comes out of the doctor's room, Judith tells her that whatever she has seen is all real. She requests for her to take her back with her. Barbara refuses, saying that she cannot go against the doctor's advice, and that they are doing all this because they care for her. Josh comes to see Judith and waits for her. An old lady comes from behind, almost frightening. She asks him to take her out of that place. Her nurse comes and takes her in. Judith comes, and they talk pleasantly, sitting on the bench. He also meets Roland. Judith asks him to take her out for some fun, but he refuses. He writes the code of the lock on her arm and leaves, embracing her. She goes to Trish and Ruth's room and finds them smoking. They talk, laughing, while seeing their old stuff. She is surprised to see a young girl's clothes there. At night, she goes to Annette's bed to talk when Ms. Benson comes with Liesl. They give her a tablet to have a better sleep. She takes the medicine and shows them her empty mouth. But when they are gone, she takes out the pill from her mouth and goes to sleep. Someone wakes her up. She finds Annette, who gives her a folded piece of paper and asks her to find it, referring to something. She falls and passes away. Judith calls out for help. Liesl comes in and they take her body out. When they leave, she opens the paper, on which the names of some of the residents are written, along with the dates. It is the list of the people who have gone so far, and who will be next. After Annette, Imogen's name is written, and after her Judith's name is mentioned. She examines Annette's bed and finds some little mysterious objects. She takes a torch and goes out, entering the code into the door lock. She finds a way out of the broken fence and goes out. Barbara and Josh pick her up on the road. They go to a restaurant. When Barbara goes away, she tells Josh about Annette in the list. He sees the list and puts it in his pocket. She tells them that she does not want to go back, but they take her by force. She comes downstairs and goes to the director's office, crossing the other residents in the hall. There, she finds some shocking facts about people in the home. She sees the staff list and finds the similarities between them. She matches the names Roland Benson and Ms. Benson, Trish Price and Gary Price, and Ruth Cooper and Elizabeth Cooper, Imogen and herself. Their brain scans and the diseases are all similar. She picks up the file and hides it in her gown. Then she dials Josh's number from the landline and leaves a voice note for him to come over as soon as possible. She hides behind the door as she notices Ms. Benson coming over. She bangs Liesl as she moves out. She tries to get out, but the code of the lock has been changed. At night, Josh comes to visit her in her room. She tells him that she knows the culprit, and that she has not seen Imogen since the previous day. She tells him that she is going to be the next victim. She further tells him about the connection between all of them. She also tells him about the photographs of Roland, but Josh does not seem to believe her. He leaves, promising to visit her in the coming week. As he goes downstairs, he notices Elizabeth taking someone away on a stretcher. The body's arm falls on one side, and he recognizes it to be Imogen. At night, Liesl and Gary put Judith on her bed by force, belting her to her bed. When Gary goes out, she asks for help from Liesl. She promises to help her, and tells her that she is being watched and that they will surely talk in the morning. At midnight, she finds the mysterious creature in her room. It is crawling over her. She starts to cry and asks for help. In the morning, she feels sick. She asks Elizabeth about Liesl, to which she replies that she has gone on sick leave. Josh is pondering while having his cornflakes. He takes the list that Judith has given him out of his pocket and sees Imogen's name written on it. He remembers her body. He rushes to the restaurant to see Roland's picture. He takes its snap on his phone and rushes to meet Judith. She is sitting in her room, crying at being afraid of the cat. She takes the pills out of her hand. Josh comes there, and the pills drop from her hand. He shows her the picture of Roland and Trish, and shows the symbol of the oak tree on their body. It is the tree of life. He tells her that he believes her, and asks her to go to the police. She denies him, telling him that they would demand evidence. She takes him to Roland's room. They get into the room. She asks Josh to look at the door, and she starts exploring his room in the hope of getting some evidence. She finds the files of their mental scan there. Then, she finds her hair, that they may have found in her hairbrush. She changes her hair with Roland's hair, and they get under the bed to hide as someone is coming over. Roland comes in and takes off his shoes. Placing them on the floor, he moves around, whistling. They hold their breath to avoid being caught. He takes out something from the drawer and disappears. They see him from the window, crawling down the wall outside. They go out, following him to the oak tree. There, they find traces of witchcraft. Judith asks him to run away if he finds any danger, but he tells her that he would not go and leave her all alone. She asks him to turn off his phone's light. They find a big fire, around which they all have gathered. Roland snaps off the head of a fire. Judith calls them witches. He records them on his phone. They are laughing and celebrating around the fire. Roland chants mysteriously, and takes out the hair to throw into the fire. Josh rushes to keep him from doing it, but he holds him by his neck. They get a hold of them. Roland tells them that they do all this to be young forever. He throws the white hair into the fire. He drags Judith before the fire when that mysterious creature comes out of the oak tree. It bends over Judith, but then moves up towards Roland and eats him. Judith gets away, and the creature goes back into the tree. Judith holds the bottle to burn the tree, but Ruth and Trish come forward and ask Judith about another way to settle the matter. Trish asks her to remember the happy times of her life and her energy at a young age. They ask Josh to remember the time when her father had been with them and how difficult it was for them to cope when he was gone. They further ask him if he wants the same with his grandma. If he loses her, who would be there for him? Josh requests Judith to do whatever they demand, as he cannot lose her. Judith drops the bottle from her hand, and the sign of an oak tree appears on their bodies. In the next scene, they are all shown celebrating Judith's 70th birthday at the nursing home. She looks more beautiful and younger than before. Barbara brings dancing shoes for her as a gift. Judith announces that Josh will be working there, serving as a nurse. Judith is shown young once again, dancing in a youthful manner.